Hey guys, we just finished prepping the smallest Airbnb room that we have across two properties. And I keep getting this question this past week. Sorry, my dog's in the way, so I'm gonna walk kind of weird. The question is, should I rent out rooms in my house? And as I've had these conversations with people, some people have shared that they may have an office space that isn't being utilized, or they have a spare bedroom that's only used twice a month, twice a year, maybe at Christmas and Easter time. If that's the case, then sure, you may want to put that space on the market, but I think there's a few questions that you need to ask yourself. And the first one is, what is your comfort level? For me, I don't need a 4 or 5 bedroom house to myself and my dog. I think if I had a son or a daughter, maybe some more family members, I'd be a little bit more protective, and I wouldn't want people in and out of my household. So right off the bat, I think I would throw out co-living models. Second, if you're comfortable with people being in and out of your home, or if you want a reliable roommate, then I think you have to do some research on the market. Are you in an area where you can obtain long-term renters? Is there a college nearby? Is there a military base? Is there something that attracts people to that neighborhood to stay there for a longer period of time? Or do you have a lot of through traffic, which is my case? For instance, both of my houses, they are about 20 minutes from 3 colleges. So a lot of clients are parents who are visiting their kids in school. About 25 minutes from downtown Baltimore. So anytime there's big conferences or concerts, people are booking out Airbnbs. And then lastly, I'm about 20 minutes from Johns Hopkins. That's a hospital that a lot of people visit, and they travel nationwide to go to Johns Hopkins. So a lot of traveling nurses or patients are booking these Airbnbs. With that being said, once I was kind of able to figure out, I think it would do well on Airbnb, I went ahead and I listed it. And this room is so small, you guys. Let me go ahead and show you how small this room is. You already see 80% of it. So space heater. It's a TV. And then this is the door that we come in. So this is a really small space. It's smaller than any barracks I've ever stayed in, smaller than any hotel I've ever paid for. But in the grand scheme of things, this room makes me $45 to $55 a night, and it stays occupied 90–95% of the time. So when it's all said and done, after these cleaning fees that I'm charging, because I'm making the beds myself, I'm not offloading that yet, but the smallest room in the house is making me $1,200 to $1,500 a month. And then that's half of my mortgage on a 5-bedroom house. I don't think this room is great for long-term per se. I mean, this closet, it's not huge, but it works great for someone who's here for 2 or 3 days. So I think if you were considering putting a room on the market, this just shows you how simple it can be. I don't have any decorations up. I feel like whenever I did put them up, they fell all the time because I'm not very handy. But at a minimum, if you're going to advertise a furnished space, I think you need to have a queen size bed. You can get away with a full if you're doing long-term rentals. But I think if you're doing short-term, you need to do at least a queen size bed because that could house 2 people, and a lot of my bookings are couples. Queen size bed, some towels, washcloths, a nightstand of some sort, nightlight, a TV, and a trash can. It's always a preference of mine to add a cooling fan as well as a space heater because people like to have their rooms at different temperatures. Also, if you guys want the link to these JO space heaters, I'm more than happy to share them. These are absolute powerhouses, and I got them off Amazon for like 30 bucks. I put them in all the rooms, even the bigger rooms. I totally lost my train of thought there. it'll come back to me. But anyways, you guys get the point. There's not a whole lot here. It doesn't take much. Don't overthink it to get a room on the market. You have to do your own self-assessment. If you're comfortable with people being in your space, if there is any demand in the market, if there's any restrictions in the market, what are your rental laws in that county, or maybe you're in an HOA, and then just put the necessities in every room. And if you decide you want to move forward, but you want a second opinion, as always, you guys could shoot me an email. You could book a call with me, because I'll drop my website below. But I'm more than happy to kind of do a quick 5-minute market analysis thing with you. If you're listing long-term, I figured I'd go ahead and share some of the websites that I prefer. Long-term rentals, first stop is always militarybyowner.com. Military by Owner just gives you quality candidates. If you're within 30 minutes of a military base, that's a non-negotiable. You know they have a guaranteed paycheck. It's almost like people are trying out to stay at your property. They'll tell you how long they're going to be in the area, what unit they're going to, what their rank is. Military by Owner should be your first stop. Second stop, and I say this kind of skeptically, is Zillow. Zillow is great. I think if you have a secluded space, if you have an apartment, like a basement apartment set up that has its own kitchen and bathroom, I think if you're renting out rooms on Zillow, you can do it, but the algorithms aren't great, and so I don't think it bumps it up as high on the viewable list. I've heard of some people using booking.com. I think that's weird. I would never use that website, because I go to booking.com if I'm looking for hotels. But sure enough, I did confirm there are houses on there. A new website that I have started to dive a little deeper into is Roomster. That's Romeo, Oscar, Oscar, Mike, Sierra, Tango, Echo, Romeo. Roomster allows you to post a space. It can be furnished or unfurnished. And then you could also post yourself. So I could go on there and say, hi, my name's Rosemary Smith. I'm looking for a dog-friendly room I could rent. My budget is $800 a month. And then you just blast it out onto that platform. I think you could also pay $5 or $10 and get your background checks done and your income verified as well. So that's really easy for landlords to do some quick screening. And I think the last one I want to mention for long-term rentals specifically is going to be PADSPLIT. I really like PADSPLIT because there's this accountability piece built in. It has a lot more structure, but you're going to end up paying for that structure. So for instance, everyone who rents your house must either be a PADSPLIT member or it could be the owner of the house. But on PADSPLIT, you own a house and then you're renting your house to an LLC. And then the tenants that you approve in PADSPLIT, who are PADSPLIT members, they are members of that LLC. And those members do peer reviews on one another. So if everyone is complaining about Bob leaving dishes in the sink, and then everyone complaining about Bob trashing the bathrooms, those peer reviews start to add up and give Bob points. So essentially, you as the owner, you could vote Bob off the island. He gets kicked out of the LLC, and that's grounds to remove him from the property. And it's really easy to go through the eviction process because he doesn't actually have rights to be there anymore. That's PADSPLIT in a nutshell. If you decide you want to go short term, more the route that I'm going instead of long term, I think Airbnb takes the cake still. I know a lot of people are talking about how Airbnb is dying. I think this is still the best short-term rental platform for room rentals. There's also Vrbo, VRBO. I think Vrbo is great if you're renting out an entire house, or same thing as Zillow if you're renting out an isolated piece of your house, like the basement apartment setup. I'm not going to recommend Craigslist. I have gotten rooms off Craigslist before, but there's a lot of weird people on Craigslist. But at the same time, there's a lot of older people who don't understand technology, and so they actually still use Craigslist as their primary means of communicating. I think it's because it's more like a newspaper to them. So with that being said, I hope this gives you guys a little bit of insight. If you want to put a room on the market, it doesn't need to be over the top. You don't need to be an interior designer. Later this week, I'll do a walkthrough of both the Airbnb properties and probably just point out things that I think have made hosting a lot more enjoyable and a lot more straightforward. So with that being said, I'm signing off. Till next week. Thank you guys.